So the next step is building a overblend mode. And this is probably the blend mode that we might use most frequently because it's going to, kind of resemble the blend mode that is most standard in most graphics editing software. And basically what we want to do is make it that when one shape is kind of over the other one, it masks it or hides it. And so this means there's going to have to be something kind of like a composite order. This means that we're going to have have some sort of logical comparison of the alpha between two shapes. First the shape that we've created, and then the alpha channel that we're accruing. So because of this reason, I think what we're going to have to do is actually split the color value that we're accumulating in the main into two values. One should be a shape vec4 that gets created, and then it's going to probably have to compare its alpha versus the alpha that already exists. That way it can cut out the alpha that already exists and mask it over the top. So let's do that. So first things first, inside the for loop, I'm going to make a new vec4, and I'm going to call it shape. And now, instead of accumulating to the color, I'm going to accumulate to shape. And then when it comes time to assign this thing, I can actually compare them. I can compare shape and color. So what I need to do is, instead of just saying color plus equal down here inside the for loop, I'm going to say color plus equal shape. Right, like that. And that's essentially doing the exact same thing. Color is being plus equal to the shape, but we've just got a new variable to play with. So now we can do some logical stuff to shape, but right away, I think what I'm going to do is say, if blend mode is equal to 0, then let's go ahead and build additive blend mode in right away. So if some variable called blend mode is 0, then we'll do additive. And you can see why this is called additive blend mode, because we're literally adding the shape to the color. Else if blend mode is equal to 1, then, some other stuff, which we're about to do. So then up here at the top of and then I'm getting an error because I haven't created the user type of blend mode. So let's come right up in here to inputs. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this long. I'm going to copy and paste it. And rather than that being circle and square, let's change that name to blend mode. And the first blend mode that we're going to have is add, and the second one we're going to have is over. There we go. Okay, so we've got add and we've got over. If I go to add, it's working as I suspect. Then over, it's giving me nothing because, of course, we've got just some other stuff that we're going to do. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to pull out a copy of, basically what we want to do is just like kind of compare the alpha that we just created with the alpha that we've already got. So to better help visualize this, I'm going to jump in here into Illustrator. And let's take a quick look at it. So let's say that's our first time through the loop. We generate a circle, and then we send the shape vec4 that we've built up, and we go ahead and add it to color. And then we do it again, and that's our second one. So rather than adding to the color, what are these? This is what their alpha channels would actually look like. So we actually don't want this. We don't want to combine the two alpha channels. Really what we're looking for actually is something kind of like this, right? Where like the two get combined, but then in the middle, that middle chunk, we want to flip that back to 0, because this then is going to be the alpha channel for the first shape we created, and then this will be the alpha channel for the second shape that we created. And in the middle, we'll get an intersection. So there's a lot of ways to do this, but one quick way I kind of derived here is to run this through a simple shaping function. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new variable called mask, and just right here, just something to hold, a float value to just hold that alpha channel so I can compare the two. And mask is going to be equal to the colors alpha plus the shapes alpha. So right away, I'm going to get something that I've got a new variable that's called mask, and it's just holding this. But actually, remember, this is 1, and this is 1. So this intersection in here is actually getting, if I'm just adding them together, it's actually giving me a value of 2, right? It's just doubling. It's just 1 plus 1 equals 2. That's math I can handle. So this is all zeros in here, right? And here is 1, and here is 1, and in the middle is 2. Great. So all I need to do is write some sort of function that turns a 2 back to a 0. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that with a shaping function. And there's, as I mentioned, there's probably different ways to do this. But let me just go ahead and write the shaping function out. We just want to have 0 is to 1, is 1 is to 1, and then 1 goes back to 2. So I just used our good friend absolute. So let's say we take our value of x, and in this case, actually, this would be mask. And let's just call it, well, let's call it x. We could say mask is equal to x, maybe. Ooh, that doesn't work, actually. Can't assign that there. M is equal to mask. Okay, there we go. Well, let's say m for mask, okay? And then let's say m, and we want the absolute value of m, which will get rid of all the, which will throw away the negatives. Let's just hide that for now. So that gives us that, and we've definitely looked at this before, right? So this is positive, and it's actually going to go positive on that side. And then we just want to flip this around, so let's just subtract it by 1, which gives us the inverse. And then we want to shift the whole thing over so that this side at -1 is 0, and then that's 1, and then that's 2. So let's subtract 1 from mask. And then if I want to clamp this a little bit so it just doesn't give me some weird values, I could also max this with 0. There we go. And so there we go, 0 plus 0, 1 plus 1, and then that x value, instead of going back up, it's going to go back down until it hits 2. So that's our formula. So let's go ahead and let's just integrate that here into my code. Mask is equal to max 1.0 minus the absolute value of mask minus 1.0 comma 0.0. Great. So then we need to do the multiplication. Let me get rid of some other stuff here. Like we need to actually multiply the two. So let's take the shapes.rgb and let's multiply it by its mask, which means that all the 0 areas will get cut out and all the 1 areas will retain. And then let's just accumulate the two. Color.rgb plus equal the shape.rgb. So remember, this is the real secret in here, right? Like now that we've flipped that thing back over to this, we're just going to multiply the color by this new mask. And so there'll be some areas in here that will then become zeros. So like if that's our old one, right? If that's the old one, then that's actually going to be hidden and then be replaced by the new shape. So we're taking this guy just to visualize this, and we're going to multiply it, but actually we calculated that intersection, so that's going to then become zeros, and that will then, maybe this would be best visualized as a 0, which means that that is going to be black. Like that. It's going to cut that out because that's multiplied by 0, and then we just calculate the new one and accumulate it back over the top. We add it, right like that. So then that's what's happening there. We're going to multiply it by the mask, so it'll get rid of that intersection. And then color plus equals shape RGB, the exact same thing basically that we're doing up there. Okay, so let's test that out. I'm going to save. And I'm going to come here now, and there we go. Now, something interesting that I'm noticing here is that my add mode is retaining my color, but my color mode, while it is working, I'm losing my fill. So let's see if we can fix what's going on here. By the way, I'm kind of leaving these errors and debugging in. kind of semi-intentionally in this training series. Obviously, if I can't figure something out right away or within just a few seconds, I'll stop the video and go and debug. So to spare you guys the kind of tedium of watching somebody debug their code. But I also want to let you know that this is pretty typical. Like sometimes you'll write your code and you're making an assumption of what's going on, particularly when you're talking with shaders, and it's not really doing what you think it's doing. And sometimes it takes a while to find your error. So I'm going to leave in stuff if I think it's useful. Like for example, this bug. One was really easy to find. As you can see here, I went and just examined my rectangle method, and I can see here for my step stroke, I'm multiplying it by fill color, and the rect step I'm multiplying by fill color. So that was a pretty simple error. So first of all, right away, let me update that. And I noticed something kind of funky was going on when I was changing my fill color. My stroke color was changing. So that was a pretty big error. But the other one was a little trickier to kind of track down. And I realized I needed one more step in here to actually create the inside of my rectangles, that I'd got my formula slightly wrong. And that took definitely a few minutes to track down. So I think one thing to make this formula actually a little easier to read is I'm going to call this rect step inner, and I'm going to create a rect step outer. And maybe I'll do this to outer for the ellipse. Just to make this easier to read, I can see my error now. So there we go. I'll paste that up there. And then one is plus and one is minus. And then I'm doing rect step inner plus rect step outer. And then, of course, this needs to be rect step inner down here that we're adding to the alpha channel. Great. Okay, and as it turns out, these need to be ran through one more step function to limit them to 0. Now let's go and put that in. And rather than adding, I need to subtract. So if you guys want to update your code to that, we should probably do the same thing up here to circle. So with my circle step, and I think this will just, I might not need the same thing on calculating the rectangle. And this happens a lot, you need to flip stuff around, flip stuff in, flip stuff out. Circle step inner, circle step outer. I think this will also just make it a lot easier to read when I do the operation on there. That's a step like that. And you notice here I am subtracting. So that indicates to me I did not need to flip it. I had the formula correct up here in ellipse, but I had it incorrect down in rectangle. And this is minus, so circle step inner minus circle step outer. And I'm going to replace the circle step with the inner. That's actually yeah, I find that much easier to read anyway. Good. Okay, so a little bit of debugging, but we've built ourselves, look at that, a nice handy-dandy over mode. And as I mentioned, this is probably more like the mode you're going to use in day-to-day operation if you want to build yourself some shapes. And you can see right away we're getting some pretty cool results there.